Welcome to the Tackling College Sports Podcast, the definitive resource to help you navigate your way to play college-level sports. Here are your hosts, Chris Legates and Mark Franco, where they want you, the TCS Nation, to be your best.
Welcome, TCS Nation, and thanks for tuning in to the Tackling College Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Franco, and sitting right next to me is my co-host. Looks like he's ready for the 305, ready to lay out in Boca Vista, Chris Legates.
Hey, good morning, Mark.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm very happy that David Beckham has got an MLS franchise in Miami, so I can go down
big
there.
News.
Yeah, go down there and hang out now.
Big news, big news. Listen, so our guests today reached out to us on Instagram. We're happy to have them, and welcome Adam and Michelle Williams, otherwise known as the Team of One. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you guys?
We're doing really well, thanks.
Good morning to you in Utah.
Yes, for sure.
In Utah. So can you guys take our listeners back on a little journey and give some background on how you met and the path your careers have taken you up to present day?
Yeah, so Adam and I we met almost 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've been married for 16 years. We have 5 girls.
Wow.
And we were just kind of doing the traditional, I stayed home, take care of the girls. He went to work. And then one day we just decided, there's more to life than what we're doing. And so Adam was coaching Little League football at the time. And we were noticing all the potential in these boys, but they just didn't have the drive or the support to go succeed. And so I'll let Adam tell a little bit about his story of going to school and such. But with having 5 girls, I knew how important it was to have confident girls and to have healthy girls. And so along my journey, I became a certified natural health practitioner. But then with the Strength of One, we decided that our primary clients, we wanted to work with the athletes, because when you work with athletes, you have people who know how to work hard. They know how to persevere through hard times. They just have a different mindset. And so that's who we wanted to work with. And so now I'm actually getting my specialization in being a fitness nutritionist.
Awesome.
And so it's pretty exciting, because then I get to talk with people about how to really utilize their nutrition to fuel their bodies.
Wow.
Yeah, and my whole thing is basically it started back when I was in high school. I was told that I shouldn't go to college, that I should find a factory job, not worry about college because it wasn't for me. Typical kid in Utah, get the decent grades but not good enough to go to college, says my guidance counselor.
Right.
It took me 15 years to actually go back to college. So I started going to college. I love the study of the mind. So I have a bachelor's in psychology with an emphasis in childhood development. And that's when I was coaching these kids. And I was like, oh, these guys are developing so awesome. And funny enough, I was actually watching Sports Center, and they did a special on Eric Decker because, we were trying to decide what kind of master's degree to go into. And Eric Decker said, hey, I used my sports psychology to help me get over a couple hurdles, and it's been awesome. And it just blew my mind that I could do sports and psychology at the same time. So I jumped in with both feet. I was like, I got to do this. Found the best program online because, like Michelle mentioned, with the 5 girls, I didn't have a whole lot of time.
Can't imagine you would.
Yeah, right. So I did that. And with sports psychology, it's kind of limited to what I can do, because I can't open up my own practice and start doing psychology. I got to do a couple of other things before I do that. But one of the things that we found that we could do was start being a basically mental coaches, just with an emphasis in sports psychology background. And we started doing that last year full time. And Michelle jumped in with her nutrition in June, and we have absolutely loved it. We've seen kids' minds just expand exponentially, just because it's like, hey, wait a sec, you guys believe that I can do this just by simple mental tools. And we're like, you absolutely can. In fact, we helped one kid out in Colorado, and he never really dreamed of going to college. He always wanted to go to college, but his pathway was through the military, going to the Air Force Academy and stuff like that. And we're like, that's great and noble and everything, but if you really want to go, here's some tips and tools to use. And we gave him those. And last November, I believe it was, He just got a full ride scholarship to a place up in Wisconsin. So he was so stoked about that to play
Awesome.
football.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you guys describe yourselves as motivational consultants, and can you tell us what type of people you're working with on a daily basis, and also perhaps who is your ideal client?
So a lot of times it's with teams, but at the same time, it's really any performer. So we've talked to drill teams, we've talked to choirs, but with that too, we have sales professionals, we have teachers who really wanted to use our services. So our ideal client is obviously teams. We want to help those teams work together to be healthy, to achieve, because every team wants to win, right?
Sure.
And some of
Right.
them struggle with different things, and so that's our ideal client who we love to work with. But then we also work with other performers as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just the teams and the people who want to succeed, really.
Got it. Chris?
Our podcast is geared towards the student athlete that may want to continue their athletic career at whatever the next level may be. Perceived could be in college, could be trying to make their high school varsity team, whatever it is. What would you say are some of the common denominators you believe that all athletes need to maybe be in tune with from a mental aspect and let's say even a nutritional aspect?
Sorry, with Adam psychology, sometimes I get excited about the mental side, but because there are so many great things, but with the nutritional side as well. So, especially, okay, sorry, I'll just let Adam talk about the mental. But especially with the nutrition side, a lot of them, it's their first time away from home.
Mm-hmm.
Mom's not there to make sure that dinner's there every night, and so a lot of times they'll just go for the top ramen or the mac and cheese. But to really help them realize that in order for them to be successful, they can do things like they can grab an apple as they're running out the door on their way to class. Like there's ways that they can still take care of their body, but to just have that mindset of now it's them, right? Like they're the ones that's in charge. They're the boss, and they don't have to look to mom and dad in order to be successful, but they can do it on their own. But to keep that nutrition as a top priority.
Oh yeah, no. One of the things that I guess we're seeing is that kids, their lives are getting so busy, especially in high school. They wake up, and Michelle and I actually talked about this last night. They wake up 5 minutes before they're supposed to leave for school, and so they wake up, get ready, and go. They don't eat breakfast,
Right.
so they'll get lunch maybe 10, 11:30, maybe 12. Traditional lunchtime. But then they don't eat until dinner again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a student athlete, that time between noon and dinner is whenever.
Sure.
I remember in high school, I really didn't eat from like 11:30 till 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so the nutritional aspect really does affect the mental aspect of the game. So that's one of the trends that we're actually seeing and trying to overcome is, hey, you need something before you start practice.
Right.
Maybe a granola bar or something, just to keep your mind sharp, because a lot of kids are seeing a weird trend between their practice and their gameplay, because their practice might be really sluggish, but then the gameplay is like, okay, I gotta actually perform better than I practice, and it's really hard for kids to do because you do play like you practice. So if they're practicing like slugs, then they're gonna play like slugs.
And I think one thing too is to make sure that they stay coachable.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that we've noticed as we've talked to a junior college here in the area is, he pulls all-stars, high school all-stars to be on his team.
Mm-hmm.
And you're playing at a junior college level, so you've gotten the next level up. But some of them were hot shots in their high school, and now all of a sudden they're the low guys on the totem pole.
Yeah.
So to stay coachable and to be able to learn from those people that have already been where they are so that they can excel, to walk on to the university and know it's okay to be a red shirt, because it doesn't mean you're going to stay a red shirt.
And from the mental aspect, what would you say are some trends that you think that, regardless of the level, are important for student athletes to have to compete at the next level?
One of the biggest things, besides being coachable, is the fact of actually seeing yourself performing, the visualization. There's not a lot of kids that get taught how to visualize actually winning, because a lot of them are I kind of hesitate to say this, but they're like me. I mean, they're kids that are out there to play. They love it. They want to get on the varsity level. college might be for them, but they don't quite know yet. But they don't know how to visualize themselves actually being there mentally. And that's a huge, huge step, because as soon as you can actually see yourself succeeding, you can succeed. And a lot of kids aren't, or don't know how to do that yet. Um, but that's one of the things that's actually starting to come around with a lot of the coaches, and it's really fun to see, because the coaches are like, "Hey, how can I help my kids do this?" And we tell them, and so they do it, and they start succeeding, and their eyes light up and like, "Hey, this actually works."
Hmm. Well, it's interesting you say that because I can kind of piggyback with a couple stories. My background,
Yeah.
I'm a college soccer coach. And just in the past week, I could touch upon both the topics that you just hit upon. We had a girl come to us and say, I've been a little sluggish in training lately. And we had her write down and go backwards to what she's been eating. And we're in the midst of kind of having double sessions where we train at 6 in the morning, but then they come back and they do a conditioning session with the strength and conditioning person in the afternoon. And we found out she just wasn't eating enough. So we were helping her to kind of, uh, you know, tweak it a little bit so that she's eating 5 meals a day. And after the last practice session, she said she felt so much better. So, when you talk about that window of time, sometimes athletes don't recognize, number one, how busy they are, and number two, how much their sport actually calorically is burning.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And then number two, what we're doing with our entire team, basketball teams will come in and do shoot arounds the day of the game. Soccer, that doesn't work if you brought them out a few hours before the game just to knock the ball around. But what we're actually doing is bringing someone in from our psychology department at the university, and they're going to do visualization for about 10 minutes on game day. And
Perfect.
it's a new approach for us as well. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, Adam.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. One of the things that actually blew my mind was, learning about the Olympic athletes. For every hour they train, they do an hour of mental exercise.
Wow.
So it was really cool to see,
And as far as
and to hear,
today
I
is
should say.
concerned, Adam, and Michelle
Yeah.
as well, what are the trends that you think are positive and negative in the world of motivational consulting?
Oh man, so one of the things I really don't like about the world of motivational consulting, one of the trends that I see is that, there's people that really have no experience, and they're trying to tell people how to do it. Um, uh, I kind of liken it to the little league parents
Hmm.
who are trying to teach their kid, hey, I had glory days, and so you should do it like this. When it's just in little league, and it's like, these kids are here to have fun. Yeah, we need to start telling them kind of, how to do things, but they can't start blocking a certain way until certain steps are in place first. And when you go from A to Z real fast, it just really sets up kids to fail.
For me, one thing that I agree with Adam on the dislike. It's really frustrating when people are like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing. I can tell you." But one thing that I do really like is that coaches are starting to be more open-minded.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of times you have coaches that just think their way is the right way and they've done it this way for 25 years, and so that's how they're going to keep doing it. But when they start being open-minded and seeing that maybe there is some sense to the madness of, having somebody from the outside come in and talk to your team, and then they get positive results, it's pretty incredible. So that's one thing that I do like, is that there's starting to be more of an acceptance for it, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, 25 years ago, as both as as athletes as well, uh, coaching was my way or the highway, and now I think coaching in 2018 is being receptive to different ways of doing things, and also being accommodating to an entire group of people, because different athletes need different things from you, and you have to provide those things now.
It's collaborative.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
What type of ways are you guys working with prospective clients? Is it strictly face to face, or do you utilize video conferencing or any other technology?
Yeah. So when we work with clients, we do in the team setting right now, it's just all been face to face. So ideally, with the packages that we have in place, we work with the team beginning, middle, and end of season, and we kind of help them through the whole process. So for right now, that's been face to face, just because that's where our market is.
Hmm.
But we do also do, the video conferencing, and as far as other technology, mainly right now it would just be the video conferencing.
Yeah.
Got it, Chris.
Michelle, this is probably more for you, but on the topic of nutrition, what are you finding when you speak with student athletes? I know you touched upon it a little bit before, but what do you think they're doing well as far as areas of nutrition are concerned? And what do you think are some of the deficiencies in their approach or maybe even general knowledge with nutrition?
I think with what they're doing well is when they're told to eat and there's food in front of them, they do a great job. As far as, the deficiencies, it is just getting them to eat. In fact, on Thursday last week, we spoke to a varsity boys basketball team, and of the 15 kids in the room, I said, how many of you had breakfast this morning? And I think 3 of them raised their hand.
Wow.
And I had to really liken it, to if they had a really nice car, they weren't going to just let the car sit there on empty. They were going to make sure it had the gas and the fuel that it needed to run the right way. And I think that kind of helped them see, oh, maybe I do need to start fueling my body, because when it comes game time, they've got to have that energy.
And do you think coaches are at least getting on board more with the nutritional aspects? Again, we mentioned being open-minded to other things, especially in sports psychology. I could tell you that firsthand. But do you find that coaches are becoming more astute with their knowledge of nutritional value for their student athletes?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, these particular coaches, they've started bringing in dinner sometimes for these athletes to eat before, because they know that some of them don't eat. And so, yes, I do think so.
And to your knowledge, have they seen a difference in performance since they've done that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, their kids actually have energy to make it through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they were saying that, the first half of their season, they noticed that at half, their kids are just tired and sluggish and couldn't compete second half. And so they're like, okay, what are some of the things that we could do? So they started bringing in dinners, and all of a sudden these kids have energy throughout the whole game. So they really have enjoyed it.
That's a great idea. And I'm sure any coaches that listen to this podcast, if you find that that sluggishness is going on, could be a good approach to helping your team out.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have discussions with parents or even student athletes on how to best prepare themselves? Eventually the game is going to end for them. It could be at the end of their varsity year in high school, or they may continue the game onward into college or the next level. Have you had those conversations with a student athlete or a parent about the inevitability of career ending? Eventually it all is going to end. So have you had to discuss that before?
We have. We actually have talked to a team out in Colorado about this. We actually talked to them after they got knocked out of the playoffs, and the coach wanted us to focus on the seniors who they won't be coming back, at least for varsity for next year for their school. A couple of them, they said we're going to move on to college, but the majority just weren't. And that's inevitable in any high school. Most of these kids aren't going to play past high school, and so we had to talk to them about what's next for them. What do they actually want? Sports is a huge thing. They can stay active in sports and the such, but what do they really need to do? What do they need to focus on? If you really want to go to college, you can. You need to start focusing on grades now, though, because you're not getting scholarships for football, which it's okay if you don't. If you want to get to that college, if you want to try and walk on, you need to start focusing on grades, and you need to start focusing on other relationships and different aspects of your life. Even though sports has been a huge part of your life, I remember in high school, I was the same way. I didn't go on to play college, but it was like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
What happens? And there wasn't anybody to tell me, hey, you need to focus on your grades. If you really do want to go to college, focus on your grades and go walk on a team. And if you don't get it, that's okay. At least you tried. So that's really what we talk about. We haven't talked to too many parents about the basically end of sports life, but I could imagine it would pretty much be the same things. Hey, we need to support them because they're going to be down. We did talk to one athlete about the depression that comes when you're done playing, because there's always that depression, and it hits every single athlete on any level. Once you're done, it's like, okay, now I'm depressed because I'm not doing what I love.
Sure. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who can feel some empathy with that. I mean, you mentioning that, I took myself back to when my college career ended that day, and I could totally remember that feeling of being like, okay, what now?
Yep, exactly.
Well, so far you've answered the easy questions, Michelle and Adam, but many coaches, many guests have come on this part and have folded under this line of questioning that Mark is going to give you now. Now, we've never had two guests at the same time.
This is
So
new.
last night when we were talking about this, we were very interested to see what the difference in answers were going to be. So this almost becomes like, if you remember the old Newlywed Game back in the 70s and 80s, this may be something that's very interesting here. So Mark has queued up the music. It's the Getting to Know You portion of the TCS podcast. Here's Mark. We're swaying right now.
Hold my hand.
Shall we dance?
Okay. Here we go, guys. Question number 1. If we were to search your phone, what would be the top 3 played songs or artists?
I'll go first on that one. So, Fight Song by Rachel Platten. Oh, Happy Day, like the one that plays in Sister Act.
Okay.
And Defying Gravity from the musical Wicked.
Ah.
Oh, mine are a lot harder. First one, well, I should say like harder music. First one is AC/DC Thunderstruck.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Woo.
Second one is Animals by Martin Gronk. It's a dubstep band. And then third is Metallica, Inner Sandman.
Oh,
Awesome.
That's big around these
those-
parts.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah, around here too. That's good stuff right there.
I love it. It gets me pumped up for the day.
No question. Number 2. Who is the most famous person you have in your contact list?
You know, you guys gave us this question beforehand, and I was excited. I was like, man, who do I have that's famous? So mine is by a gentleman by the name of Alema Harrington. He played he played football at Brigham Young University, and now he's big into the sports announcing, but he's also a huge advocate for opioid use and helping players be aware of the consequences of things like that.
Oh, wow.
Mine would be Coach Miles of the Salt Lake City Community College boys basketball team. He played professionally in Europe and I think here for a year or two. But yeah, those would be the most famous people that I have, or famous person that I have.
Okay. Question number 3. Do you have a favorite quote?
Go ahead. This is funny.
All right, so mine is actually by Helen Keller, and she says, I'm only one, but I am still one. I can't do everything, but I can do something.
Uh-huh.
Like that.
Mine,
Why are you laughing?
because it's funny. Mine's by Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until you get hit. Oh,
Punched in the face.
punching the whatever it is.
There
I
is
mean,
a tremendous yin and yang between the two of you. I love it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Academy of
Oh,
Helen
absolutely.
Keller and Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Hey,
You go from
listen.
Metallica to a musical. Yeah, sure, man.
Yep.
100%.
So you guys could imagine with 5 girls, my house is a musical every day.
Sure.
I can't imagine.
Helen Keller, Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
We make it work.
I like it.
Yeah, I do. I like it too.
I do.
100%.
I do like that. All right, let me get this back on track. Question number 4. Can you give the listeners a little known fact about yourself?
A little known fact about myself: I broke my skull and my nose at the same time.
Whoa. Did
Yeah,
Michelle
playing
do?
baseball.
Did Michelle do this?
No,
Okay.
Was Metallica involved?
What's
no,
No.
no. Actually, just playing little league baseball.
Oh, wow.
My mitt broke, and we were just sitting there warming up before a playoff game. Sitting there warming up, having fun. And the guy were throwing it back and forth. I noticed my mitt was broke. He threw the ball right at me. He didn't notice I was looking at my mitt. He said heads up, and I actually looked, and baseball right to the nose. So it broke my nose, and it went up into my skull. So my baseball was done.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. That's me.
There's a little known fact right there. Yeah.
Little known fact. Yep.
Do we have one? Do we have one for Michelle?
You know, mine's just not that exciting.
Sure it is.
This is where I guess I get to fold. I have never been out of the country.
Oh,
There you go. That works.
That's it's funny because I will be taking my first trip to Europe this coming March, and I'm 48 years old, so it's taken me a long time. So
That's right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Awesome.
Question number 5. Who has been the biggest influence in your life?
You want to start that one? You want me to? The biggest influence, I guess the guy that really got me, or I should say, helped me get started on this path would be Eric Thomas. I love to listen to Eric Thomas, all of his stuff he puts up on YouTube and Facebook. Really inspirational to me. And then that kind of dovetails into Grant Cardone. Those two guys have really inspired me to take my game to the next level, however I can.
I just listened to him and Gary Vee this morning.
Oh, yes.
Oh, nice.
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
So for mine, on a more personal level, is my mom. She's just a really great example of what a mom is.
Mm-hmm.
But on a bigger level, probably Andy Andrews, because when I had started the journey of doing more personal development, he was one that I got to listen to him live. And he's just so fun and interactive. And I just realized, you know what, this whole personal growth thing doesn't have to be drudgery. It can be fun, and I can really learn along the way. And so from his book, The Traveler's Gift, is where I learned a whole lot of where to start with my personal development.
Excellent. Question number 6. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would you choose?
I'd have to go with Audrey Hepburn.
Wow.
She would be really fun to sit down with.
Wow.
I agree with that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Love her. I love her.
Mine's a mix of either George Washington or Vince Lombardi.
Ooh.
Okay, I like that.
Probably very similar. You know that? They probably are.
Yeah, yeah. Just one because, hey, what inspired you to, revolt, and the other one is what inspired you to actually stick with football so long.
And number 7, if you weren't doing what you're currently doing with the strength of one, what do you think you all would be up to?
I would probably still be a salesman somewhere. That's a lot of my background, as I was in sales for 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, and I would probably be doing some kind of secretarial work.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're kind of boring that way.
We are. But what we do is exciting.
This is a lot more fun. Yeah, definitely.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We move into the tough question number 8. What is one thing you believe that others might think is crazy?
What do you believe, Shell?
So one thing that I say that a lot of times people just raise an eyebrow at me is, because I dream big. Like, I throw out some really crazy dreams sometimes, and people just kind of raise an eyebrow at me, and I'm like, but you know what? In fact, we say it to our 14-year-olds all the time now. If you can think it up in your head,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it work.
Sure.
You can really make it happen. Because some people will say, oh, I can't do that in my business. And I'll say, why not? And they'll raise their eyebrow, or, oh, I can't do that. Well, why not? So to just always be questioning that I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of people think I'm crazy because I do it all the time.
It's great. It's great.
Adam?
Mine kind of parlays into that. It's your mind is your biggest asset or tool that you have. So fill it with the right things.
Excellent.
I know a lot of people have thought I was crazy for that.
And that takes us into the morning ritual.
Oh man, my morning ritual is get
5
up,
daughters.
take a shower.
5 daughters.
Try to get into the bathroom.
Yeah, try to get the bathroom.
I got to get up early, like way early. So get up early, take a shower, listen to Eric Thomas or Grant Cardone, every so often Gary Vee, but then, yeah, sit down and plan my day.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, honestly, I don't love mornings, but I know that it's one thing that I have to do in order to get some me time. So I have a little bit more sanity. So I'm up at 5:30, and then I do some personal study from a religious book, and then I'll jump in and I'll either do like some kind of exercise routine, or I'll do some of my homework and studying for my certificate for another good half hour, and then we start our day at 6:30 with the girls. So.
Yeah, making 5 sets of lunches, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Wow. And last question. What book are you currently reading or have just read?
So right now I'm in the middle of Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Oh yeah, it's a good book.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of High Performance Habits.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow. I'll tell you what, for the first time for us ever doing it with partners here,
Two guests at once.
they were tremendous. You've
worked out
handled
well.
the tough questions very. I don't think you broke a sweat over there, did you?
Oh, I'm sweating.
I'm very proud of it. I'll tell you what, a lot of coaches and guests have folded under the line of questioning. That number 8 usually gets to people, the one thing that people think is crazy, but you handled it with no problem. Unbelievable stuff, Mark. I think they hit it out of the park with that one, didn't they?
There's no question about that. In fact, I might have a little something here. Yep.
Wow.
Yep, it's out. Well done. Well done.
Awesome.
I'm going to reel it back in. I have a final question for you from my side today, Michelle and Adam. I just sat in a workshop a couple weeks ago at our university, and we've talked about how kids are different. Kids have changed over the last bunch of years. You know, for me, who has a background of 26 years in the collegiate realm of athletics, how do you deal now? Because I think this is something that's changed. How do you deal with that child or the student athlete now who's not used to failure and then they fail?
Oh man, we've actually had that a little bit with a couple of people we've talked to.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to approach it really a lot more sensitive than you would any other athlete, because most athletes are used to that failure, are used to losing, are used to not being the starter or the coach's favorite.
Right.
But I remember talking to this one kid who was he was devastated. He wasn't the coach's favorite. He was a number 2 guy. This team was actually, they were really good, and so they didn't need him as much. They needed him obviously, but they needed him to play more of a bench role.
Mm-hmm.
He played basketball, and he was just devastated with it. And we talked to him about how he could be. This is going to sound really funny. How he could be the best number 2 on the team, and what roles he could have done. And he was still devastated, but we talked him through it about how to be the best team player. And it does sound kind of cliche, but these kids nowadays don't know how they can be.
Right.
Especially this kid. He was like, I just don't know what the coach doesn't see in me. And it's like, it's nothing you did. It's the coach wants you to be a great number 2 player, because if the starters or those guys screw up, he needs you to come in and save the day. And that really helped him, because it was, hey, the coach has put me in a backup role to help these kids and help the team actually succeed and not lose. And he really appreciated that and thought it was something that he could have fulfilled when we were done talking to him.
Oh, that's a great
And
piece.
I think,
go ahead.
I think too, to let them know that it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, you didn't die.
Right.
To know that it's okay to be sad today.
Mm-hmm.
But then to reevaluate and pick yourself up. So, in fact, we were talking with someone the other day, and she is a straight A student, just really excels and thrives and pushes herself in class. And she got an F. And she instantly was like in tears, like just bawling. And I was like, well, let's evaluate it. Why is this F here? And it really came down to a missing assignment. And so I was like, does it mean you're a failure as a student? And she's like, no, I'm still a good student. And I was like, absolutely. So to really help them with that self-talk, because they're going to have haters come in and just want to bash everything that they've done good.
Mm-hmm.
But to know that it's not the end, that they still are great. They're a great athlete. They're a great student. They're a great person. And that one failure, it's okay. Because I know sometimes it bugs me when people use the term failing forward, because I was like, what is that? I don't like to fail.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you're learning. And if you think of it as, something that you've learned from, not that you've failed at, just that difference in that mindset, I think really helps them get up, brush themselves off, and get ready to move forward.
Those are great pieces of advice. Mark.
All right, guys, so we're coming to the end here, and I just want to give you an opportunity that if you have anything to promote today, go ahead.
All right, so coming up, we've actually partnered with Utah Grizzlies. There's a semi-pro hockey league here in Salt Lake. And on March 10th, we can get tickets for $10, and we're doing a seminar before the game. So that's locally. Anybody that's local in Utah, we'd love to have you out that night, help support the Grizzlies as well as, get to know us a little bit better. But Adam, what about those that are over in Connecticut with these guys?
I don't know if we have anything really promoted to promote, really, just ourselves.
Yeah.
That's about it right now.
Well, yeah, that's fine. How about, can you give us how listeners can get in touch with you, the email, web, social media?
Yeah, we mainly do everything on Facebook, Instagram, a little bit on LinkedIn. We're starting to get in there. But just the Strength of One at Facebook, or Facebook/the Strength of One is the number one. And that's how a lot of people get a hold of us now.
Yeah, on Instagram as well, it's Strength of One, the number one. And then for our email, it's the Strength of One, number one, @gmail.com.
Excellent.
But we'd love to, especially with you guys on the East Coast, it's always neat and fun to talk with you guys. If there's anybody back there that, would love to even just have a free consultation to see what we could do for their team, we'd love to talk with them.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, we'll definitely put that up on the show notes once we get your episode out. We'll have all of that information up so folks can contact you. Once again, listen, we appreciate your time, Adam and Michelle, from the Strength of One. And you can reach us, tacklingcollegesports.com. Make sure you sign up with your first name and email to be included in the Friday 5. It's a weekly email of 5 sports-related items that we think could be of interest to you, the TCS Nation. You can email us at tacklingcollegesports@gmail.com, facebook.com/tacklingcollegesports, and on Twitter is @tacklingcollege, Instagram Tackling College. And until next time, be your best.
Be your best.
Your college sports future awaits. So join the TCS Nation and be your best.